that way, it will give you diabetes and it will give you heart disease. So not only is it not good for you, it will actually create diseases eating that way. It says 2 to 4 servings of fruits, 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, and then you get meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, 2 to 3 servings, milk, yogurt, and cheese, 2 to 3 servings, and then at the top, fats, oils, and sweets, enjoy sparingly. So let's take a look at that on the next slide, and let's see what those food nutrients, what are they good for? What do they do for us? So fat is one of the most important fuels that we have because it's a high quality fuel that is absorbed very slowly. It sustains blood sugar, and it's a very, very healthy way of getting your fuel. Fat also acts as energy reserves. That's how the body stores them. Fat is a major component of your hormone system. So cholesterol and quality essential fatty acids are very, very important for your hormone, for your endocrine system. Fat is also structural. It acts as insulation. Both for thermal insulation and electrical insulation for the nerves. So fat has a whole lot of different functions, and some of them are unique to fat. We cannot do without it, and that's why they have something called essential fatty acids. Protein also has a bunch of different functions. It can act as fuel, it can act as reserves. Half or more of the hormones in the body are called peptides. That's a subclass of hormones. And proteins are also structural because your muscles and all your contractile tissue is made of protein entirely. So protein and fat both have very important and widespread and unique functions that you cannot replace with anything else. Carbohydrate, on the other hand, is fuel only. That's the only thing that carbohydrate is good for. So in terms of survivability and essential food stuff, you can do fine without carbohydrates. You can live a long, long, healthy life with virtually no carbohydrates, but you cannot survive without fat and protein. So in terms of importance, just looking at that, fat and protein are very important, carbohydrate not very important. And yet, in the food pyramid, they say fats and oils enjoy sparingly. And for some reason, as if there was something bad about them, they put fats and oils and sweet in the same group, as if they were related. They have nothing to do with each other. And sweets, yes, those are processed carbohydrates, you need to stay away from them. But fats and oils in a natural form, the way they occur in nature, is maybe our most important nutrient. So food pyramid, forget all about it. And next is the cartoon. There's this kid who's giving his report, and he says, the 4 basic food groups are stuff that will make me fat, stuff that will make me sick, stuff that will kill me, and stuff that I'll eat anyway. So that's kind of how people feel about food, that there's been books written about why you can't eat every single kind of food out there. So what do you eat? I mean, everything is bad, right? They've told us for decades that meat is bad, red meat is bad, and fish is bad, it's got heavy metals, and sugar's bad, and fat is bad, and this and that is bad. So let's just forget all about that and start talking about what food really is and what good food really is. So good food is food that contains fuel and nutrients for energy and building blocks that can be converted to human tissue. And think about that, because this nail was food a month ago. This piece of skin was carrot or egg or spinach or something last month. So the whole purpose of food is to provide building blocks and to provide the stuff that can sustain the body and give it fuel and materials for regeneration. Next, good food is food that is recognized by your enzymes and receptors. So if you put something in your body that the receptors and the enzymes doesn't know what to do with, it doesn't have a good key or puzzle piece fit, then your body won't know what to do with that. So when we take a natural food that has those proper pieces and we change it, then the body doesn't recognize it anymore. It's not a proper food. A good food is food that will not wreak havoc with your physiology and hormone balance. So primarily, again, we're talking about insulin. Sugars, starches, and alcohols will mess severely with your blood sugar balance and therefore with your insulin, which is one of the foundation key factors in your endocrine system. And good food is food that your DNA recognizes. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this. That ultimately, everything that you put into your body has to be broken down into smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces have to be able to cooperate and fit and mingle with digestive enzymes and with your body tissues. So your body has developed over tens of thousands of years, and all the physiological processes and all the molecules have developed a certain fit over time. And it has done that because nature has provided a certain kind of food. And that's how it is with every animal in nature. They are adapted over eons to their environment. So whatever occurs in nature are things that fit your body, that you're supposed to have. And it can't be any other way, because then we wouldn't be here. So when we talk about history, when we talk about DNA, we need to realize that the DNA of Homo sapiens is virtually unchanged for the last 40,000 years. There's been a mass of articles in literature, in physiology literatures, that state this fact, and they all agree. For 40,000 years, our DNA has not significantly changed. So when we think about that, that means any food that's introduced in the last 40,000 years is new to the body. It doesn't recognize it. And any food that has been changed is not recognized by the body. So we look at this diagram here of historical adaptation. So if we have a timeline of 40,000 years, that's a long, long time. 40,000 years. This is the period of time that we have lived on Earth, and for most of that, or since our DNA changed last. And during that time, we have mostly eaten off what the land provides. We have been what's called hunters and gatherers. And so those types of foods agree very well. Your body knows what to do with them, and it can function in a stable manner on those foods. Then we look at the most, not the most recent, but the major significant event in human history is called agriculture. And it occurred about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, give or take. And when you look at it in perspective to the total range of time that we're talking about, the 40,000 years, it is still a blink. It is still a very, very short time. 4,000 years is nothing when it comes to evolving DNA. So even though the Egyptians started agriculture, and that seems like a really long time ago, it's not very long, because we have the same physiology they had. Now let's look at the time period that we have had processed food and grains, processed grains. That's about 150 years. So for the last 150 years or so, we've had quite a bit of processed foods, but it still hasn't been dominating our food supply. And then for the last 50 years, and even the last 20, and that's such a short time that if I was to write it proportionally, it'd be so thin that you couldn't even see it. And that's when the dominance, the majority of our food supply has been severely processed and altered, and there's an abundance of sugars and starches, and not to mention all the additives in food. So frankly, our bodies, our DNA has absolutely no idea what to do with that food, and it has become most of the food that we eat. And that's why we are in such a bad state as we are. So think about this. What do the other animals on Earth eat? Basically, they eat anything that they can catch, pick, or gather. So all of those are foods